Chapter 274, Swordsman 1. The Crusader had said when she abstained on the 34th floor. If you must choose only one, let it be me. It's okay. I'm saying this now, but I don't particularly wish for the ocean race to seize continental hegemony. Being sufficiently well off is enough. Did the Crusader lie to me? Was it all an act? I don't think so. Perhaps she agreed with the Count planned to test Kim Gongja, but I believe she participated in the test not because she doubted me, but because she trusted me. I leave the rest to you, Gongja. She just didn't tell me the whole truth. The Crusader. Patricia was almost always like that. I expected that you wouldn't fail. The Crusader stroked the cat's back in her arms. The problem was how you would handle failure. Handle failure? There's no way the Dakibi race wouldn't discriminate against the fairy race. Conflict is inevitable. And even if patched up once, it doesn't disappear. Kim Gongja. Even if you stitch up the wounds of conflict, they will open again as years pass. So. The Crusader smirked. I thought you would be somewhat frustrated. Who would have thought you'd introduce a new art form to the fairy race? I never imagined it. The fire painting play. Isn't that right, Count? Even we didn't think of such an idea. The Crusader's touch became slightly more intense. The Count cat, receiving the stroking divine art, meowed softly. Meow. Choosing the fairy race as the revivers of fire painting play was a brilliant move. Fire painting play is a kind of stage art, but it's not a common performance. And it's not martial arts, even though it involves aura. It's both art and martial arts. Martial arts and art. Literally, a martial artistry. But, Vice Chief, your touch is a bit uncomfortable. Humans discriminate and despise everything. It's impossible to completely heal that discrimination and contempt. Pat. Whether or not the Crusader heard the Count complaints, she was getting excited. There are only two things where people voluntarily and unanimously stop their contempt: strength and beauty. Physical strength stops people from physically messing with others, and aesthetic beauty makes people open their hearts willingly. Vice Chief. Maybe stop stroking now. Fire painting play encompasses both. Brilliant. Who would look down on a fairy gracefully dancing and scattering powerful aura? It must have changed the perception of the fairy race. No, it must have been a turning point in softening the Dakibi race's view on different races. Completely. Meow. I understood the Crusader was praising me while being extremely excited, but it was a bit difficult to focus while watching a cat melt like ice cream in real time. Wait. Could it be that the Count walking around transformed into a cat and making members of the Merchant Guild wear cat ears was not her preference, but the Crusaders? That's a dangerous thought. Surely it can't be. Even if it were true, I would definitely respect my friend's privacy. You're not listening and just imagining weird things again, aren't you? Seems like the Black Dragon which is maxing out her skill in reading my expressions. Well, sure. I might be a great guy, but fire painting play was originally a culture held by the Dakibi race children. I just helped a bit so that their inherent talents could bloom fully. Did you hear that, Count? The Crusader got even more excited. I have a lie detector activated right now. That statement is a truth without a single speck of deceit. Even when he said, I might be a great guy, the lie detector didn't go off. Isn't that amazing? Count, when you speak, the detector beeps noisily for 8 out of 10 seconds. It's a whole different level. Meow. Is that so? You think the same as me, Count. That's great. There's no need for further testing. Kim Gongja. You not only pass the count test, but also solve the most difficult problem in the most effective way. If you become our leader, I will gladly follow you. Leader. Of course, I agree. The heretic questioner chimed in. Some of you might not know this, but I had already sworn allegiance to the Death King right after clearing the 32nd floor. I guess I was a bit faster than the rest of you. Talking about loyalty is irrelevant here, but
Yeah.
it's pointless explaining to him. The Black Dragon Witch sighed. I agree too. Anastasia. I know you don't need the position of a leader. Her eyes, reflecting the night sky, looked at me. But we need you. Not me, not the Crusader, not the heretic questioner or the Count, but someone to call the guild leaders who operate independently as us. Kim Gongja. We need you. And you need us too. The Black Dragon Witch nodded. Was it an unconscious gesture showing she was convinced of something? Or was it connecting this conversation to some other thought? The answer to my question came from the Black Dragon Witch herself. We've been together for quite a while now, haven't we? Yes. I've never heard a single joke about Ukraine from you. I tilted my head in confusion. I didn't understand what she meant. Ukraine. My homeland. Ukraine? I know that's your homeland, but, a joke? What do you mean? Aren't I quite pretty? Is Anastasia sick? I looked at my respected friend with a worried face, but she just bluntly asked for an answer, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I am pretty, aren't I? You are, certainly beautiful. It's not for nothing that you and the heretic questioner frequently grace the covers of magazines. But why haven't you ever joked about it? Like, you're beautiful because you're from Ukraine. What is she talking about? Is this more serious than a cold or flu? Has she become obsessed with her appearance from fighting with 6 or 7 mirrors? Was there a warning in the skill description like, note, may cause slight addiction to one's own appearance? Yes, that's the look. You look like you think I'm treating you like a fool, but anyway, it reveals your way of thinking quite clearly. I'm still not quite sure what you're talking about. I've heard that joke over 300 times in my life. I've been asked if I'm a communist more than 200 times, and about my thoughts on the Nazis at least 50 times. I've been asked countless times which side I supported in the Civil War. Really? Yes. The Black Dragon Witch turned her head to look at the Crusader. The Crusader nodded and moved his jaw slightly. Kim Gongja never joked with me about Venezuela to me either. Even though I sometimes use beauty jokes or oil jokes to lighten the mood, I've never heard them from Kim Gongja. Oh. It's just that I don't know much about those topics? I don't have any either. The heretic questioner laughed. Since the beginning, even when talking about my past, the Death King just listened and never delved deeper into my past. Even out of curiosity, he never asked more. Never heard a curry joke either. The Count Cat managed to speak while enduring the Crusader's onslaught. Aren't you curious about our religions? Whether we are atheists or not? Didn't you want to ask? Did you even think about it? I hadn't. Meow. The Count laughed. You're utterly uninterested in those matters. Absolutely. I'm not. Your indifference is comfortable to us. It's not that you're indifferent to us. On the contrary, you're very passionate about knowing us. You know almost fervently about what we've said, what we've done, and the mistakes we've made. Frankly, you like us. But interestingly, your areas of interest are quite limited, aren't they? Black Dragon Witch and others think of you as a virtuous person. Finally, the Count leaped out of the Crusader's embrace. When she was falling through the air, she was a cat, but by the time she landed, she had transformed back into a human. Her beautiful emerald-colored sari fluttered like a cloak. Whoosh! The sari concealed the Count's shadow between the air and the ground. I don't care whether you are a saint or a sinner. The sari slowly settled. There, the Count stood, holding a fan, with a cunning smile. Your personality could simply be a manifestation of a desire to not be disliked by others. Deep down, there might be a strong desire to be acknowledged by others, so perhaps your behavior towards us is all flattery and fawning. But that doesn't matter to me. What I care about is not where a person's personality originated from, but where it is going and where it has arrived. The destination you've chosen is quite comfortable for us. Isn't that an overestimation? Of course, I want to look good in front of these people. But suddenly, I worried. What if my wish to be liked succeeded too well, to the point that I couldn't handle their affection? Can I always live up to their expectations, my comrades' trust, my friends' faith? Was my success too excessive? Won't I disappoint them? Nisha. That's my real name. You must have heard the Crusader call me that. That's right. I knew the Count's real name. Certainly, when we were fighting against the Evangelist of Everlasting Happiness, the Crusader shouted her name. Although the Count never told me her name directly, it was remembered in the back of my mind. But you never mentioned my name. Not even a hint that you knew it. That's because naturally. Exactly. You've just behaved with common courtesy, as you're thinking right now. The Count fanned herself. That's precisely why I want to establish you as our leader. Become a natural part of our existence. Kim Gongja. The moment the Countess grinned. Quest progress. The pure races voting begins. I looked at Sword Saint. The aggressive demeanor he initially approached us with had completely vanished. Sword Saint was simply watching us, faintly smiling with his wrinkled face. Before coming here, I told them to start voting on their own if they didn't hear any sounds of battle after 30 minutes of my arrival. The youngsters followed my instructions well. Elder. I have already agreed with the Count. I watched whether you all could really cooperate and progress through the stages, without my help and trying not to participate as much as possible. Counting completed. Vote result for option 2, 23.81%. Vote result for option 1, 76.19%. Not just me, but all the races who directly watched your actions through The Lady Who Walks the Mirage have been observing you. Responsibility is a heavy burden. I too once shouldered the responsibility of leading the tower's conquest from the front. And to take on even a fraction of the responsibility for the purge, I stepped back from the front lines and never again involved myself in the tower's politics. Sword Saint chuckled lightly. In a sense, what stands before you is a failure. What you are seeing now is the worst-case scenario, the outcome of a bitter failure, and the realization of the worries and fears you have. Now, tell me, Death King. The old man smiled with his eyes. Does this failure look so terrible that it's unbearable? No. I replied. Elder, you are not a terrible person. Not at all. At least to me, Marcus Callenberry isn't. Good. The old man nodded. Then your failures won't be so terrible either. I might be an old man, but don't view failure too dreadfully. Perhaps you, like me, will have a second chance. Someone might appear who makes you reconsider retirement and return to active duty. Stage cleared. The 46th floor stage has been cleared. Plus. Heretic questioner. Real name, Bambolina. Responsible for the snail race. Vote percentage, 77.5%. Stage cleared. Plus. Count. Real name, Nisha. Responsible for the fairy race. Vote percentage, 88.4%. Stage cleared. Crusader. Real name, Patricia. Responsible for the ocean race. Vote percentage, 98.68%. Stage cleared. Plus. Black Dragon Witch. Real name, Anastasia. Responsible for the bloodsucking race, Dream Demon race. Bloodsucking race vote percentage, 97.55%. Dream Demon race vote percentage, 100%. Stage cleared. Sword Saint. Real name, Marcus Callenberry. Responsible for the pure race. Vote percentage, 76.19%. Stage cleared. Plus. Death King. Kim Gongja. Responsible for the Dakibi race. 100%. Stage cleared. Plus. Hey. And then. Nobody else objected except me. Is this really happening? The last voter. Everyone's too kind-hearted, that's the problem. If relationships were just, hey, I like you, hey, I like you too, then all the psychotherapists would be out of jobs, wandering the streets. Emotions are emotions because they can't be resolved by words. Stomping through the jungle's shadows, the one-eyed swordsman approached. Hey, there. The swordsman greeted with a, hey, there. I went all out in secluded training, just as you said. I feel like the protagonist of a martial arts novel right now. You know, before agreeing verbally, protagonists in martial arts novels have to talk through their swords first. That's the way of the martial world. My folks say they won't acknowledge any vote or anything until they have a rematch. Among those gathered here, excluding Sword Saint, he was the first person to reveal his real name to me. Draw your sword, Kim Gongja. Venomous Snake. Real name, Liao Fan. Responsible for the noble race. Enough of that. Let's have a duel. Vote percentage. Undetermined. Quest progress. The voting of the noble race begins. Voting starts. Chapter 275, Swordsman, 2. He's not listening. Is he too immersed in the moment? This guy is crazy, but I like it. Hey, my name is Liao Fan. You probably can't hear me, but it doesn't matter. Back in the audience chamber, you saved my life. As the master of Chenmumun, would I let such a debt go unacknowledged? Just keep charging straight ahead. I'll take care of the left side. This is quite the privilege, you know. No one who stood to my right has ever died before. Go forth, new star. Come. Death King. I quietly observed Venomous Snake. What should I say to you? Venomous Snake had one eye. He wore an eye patch over the empty space where the other should be. Have you ever locked eyes with someone who has only one eye? It's not a common experience. Like me, you've probably gotten used to interacting only with people with two eyes throughout your life. My pupils, my gaze, the rhythm of my thoughts, they're all adapted to bilateral vision. Facing someone with only one eye is different. When looking at them, when needing to see them, my field of vision narrows down. My eyes, accustomed to the usual breadth, now focus on a narrowed path. As my view narrows, thoughts multiply, and amidst these, stray thoughts spread. That might be why. Even though I'm making eye contact with the master of Chenmumun right now, my mind is drifting to old memories. Venomous snake doesn't remember. It was during the battle against the monsters summoned by the Devil King of Fall Rain. For the first time, I was completely immersed in the battle with my sword. Venomous snake helped me then. He helped me stay in a state of no mind as long as possible. A kind gesture, wasn't it? He doesn't remember. I died hundreds of times at the hands of the Devil King of Fall Rain. The time Venomous Snake helped me was just one of those hundreds of deaths. Buried and obscured by time, there's no way he could remember that particular moment. Simply impossible. But I remember. Slowly. I drew the holy sword from its sheath. Even before pulling out the blade, from the moment my palm touched the hilt, I had already started drawing an aura. A different shade of red flowed through my veins, mingling with my own blood. The faster the aura coursed through my veins, the tighter it wound around my heart, the quicker my thoughts sped up, and the slower the current of my vision became. In the instant the sword left its sheath, I thought. You said you were jealous of me. Why? Why do the children I care for? Then and now, Death King. Why? Why can't the ones I look after be happy like those you care for? Even though you don't remember the moments of my death. Why only you can make the others happy? You gave the best moments to the heavenly demon. You gifted them. Despite being tormented by the pain of death, the heavenly demon could genuinely smile because of the gifts you gave. Why? Every time I came to a realization, you were there beside me. Why couldn't the leader do that? Is it my fault? Death King. Why am I? Just as I have become a source of jealousy for you, you too have become a part of me. A sharp metallic sound. The holy sword, personifying the goddess of protection, was fully drawn from its sheath. How can I convey this to you? That you are not meaningless to me. That I know of your existence, and I still remember days you've forgotten. How can I let you know? Can I convey that? That's right. Just like that. You understand what I'm saying. With words? This might surprise you, but during my secluded training, I fully grasped the teachings of Master Namgungan. That old man did teach me something, but I never realized it. It only started to surface when I was training alone. Perhaps it's a law that one needs to have time alone. With a bit of words and half-closed eyes? Thanks for recommending the seclusion. Kid. What words should I use? By the way, why have you been silent all this time? Maybe, no words at all. Did you tense up because you sense the rise in my energy? That's disappointing. I was so happy to see you after decades that I didn't even greet the others. Even if we fight, we should at least exchange a few words. Defeating you with words would be easy. And defeating you with my sword, too, probably wouldn't be difficult. What? Don't you agree? You may have trained in seclusion for decades, but the level you've reached is beneath my perception. Your stance, the color of the aura you're emitting, I can guess all these from a glance. It would be easy to wound you with words, saying that's all you could achieve, and just as easy to prove it with a sword. Hey, Death King? Winning and inflicting wounds has always been easy. The hard part has always been winning your heart. Are you really not going to say anything? I recall my master's teachings. Looking back, my master only taught me a few things. How to infuse a heart into a wound. How to overlap a voice with the sound of a sword. Words uttered by a human tongue are just noise, but when that noise has direction and meaning, it can certainly wound the unseen heart. The sword I wield is just a lump of material, but when that lump has direction and meaning, it too can slice through an otherwise uncuttable heart. What my master aimed to cut with a mere piece of steel was the stubbornness and obsession in the heart, and what I want to cut is your stubbornness, obsession, contempt, and fixation. Really? Can I cut it? There's no need for words, then. I will cut it. If that's the case, I misspoke. I shouldn't have asked you to come at me. It's only proper for the one who challenges to rush towards the one who is challenged. With just a stroke of material and a line of matter in a sword cut. I circulate aura through my veins, wrap it around my heart, extending it to the sword blade. I'm conveying the current of life I've traversed, the warmth I've gleaned from the world, showing that my blood flows here, my heart lives here, to you. If I convey it, you will understand. Because you, a swordsman who has closed himself off from the world and endured for decades, will understand. Here I come. Shine. Shiny responds to your call. Shiny. The goddess of protection listens to your call. Idol. Compassion. Prayer. The goddess of protection responds to you as follows. Sacrifice. Yes, Death King. Salvation. I obey your command. By the time I called the swords one by one and reached the third name, Shiny had already read my intention and revealed itself in this forest. Shiny shone brightly. The light was intense. As the light increased and spread, it appeared to me as a slow sequence of photographs. The light spread in all directions. As the blade's light brightened in the air, the shadow cast by the sword on the ground also darkened. As if compressed by the light from all sides, the shadow of the sword on the ground narrowed. Narrowed and darkened further. More. A little more. The salvation sword obeys your command. Finally, the length of the sword in my palm and the shadow on the ground became the same. The sacrifice sword obeys your command. Neither were mere physical objects nor mere illusions. The prayer sword obeys your command. Twitch. Despite the intense light, the sword's shadow, which had not shrunk any further, suddenly moved as if alive. The compassion sword obeys your command. Venomous snake, who was preparing to charge at me, hesitated. He opened his one eye wide. For just a moment, the sword's shadow writhed and then split. 1, 2, 3, 4. The single shadow cast by the sword divided into 4 paths. The sword shadows scattered in the 4 cardinal directions, east, west, north, south. But they didn't scatter randomly. The sword shadows all encircled me solemnly, as if guarding me. Like the hour, minute, and second hands of a clock winding time, the sword shadows slowly rotated, and I stood in their midst, holding the idol sword. The goddess of protection manifests. And with the tip of my sword, I aimed at Venomous Snake. Venomous Snake hesitated and lifted the corner of his mouth. I could hear it. The sound of lips curling, the breath folding along the creases, Behurayang blinking once behind me, the sound of Sword Saint, Black Dragon Witch, Crusader watching our confrontation, their eyes wide open, and Estelle watching our standoff with widened eyes, all echoed clearly in my ears. Hey! SSHHK. From the 4 directions of the sword shadows, 4 swords emerged. Is this for real? The swords risen from the shadows didn't lose their shade even after leaving the ground. They were dark. Instead of clear outlines, they constantly writhed. They were alive. Pulsing. Undulating. Growling. Like untamed beasts. They were alive. This is cheating, isn't it? As the aura frolicked in my body, making it a host, and turned my aura into carnage, the avatars of the goddess of protection manifested. Are you going to use 5 swords now? I barely stand a chance with one. If mere aura is called sword energy, then this was closer to sword strength. When I turned my head, the 4 swords followed. When I pointed the sword tip, the 4 tongues also moaned in unison. In perfect harmony. My salvation, my sacrifice, my prayers, my compassion. Ever since I wielded a sword, my collected and harvested experiences were in perfect sync with the idol in my hand. Fine. Bring it on. This is the realm I stand upon now. The scenery I see with my own eyes. Though I cannot yet fade the shadows like my master. If your plan is to defeat me without uttering a single word, I might not be able to slice the edge of winter, but I can certainly cut a sliver of heart hidden in your chest. I will definitely make you utter at least one word. Venomous Snake swung his sword. I recognized the sword technique he unleashed. When was it? It resembled the technique shown by Namgung-un, the Martial Alliance leader, in his battle against my master on the snowy field. Yes. As his body collapsed, flesh decayed, and bones melted, the Martial Alliance leader manipulated his muscles with internal energy, showing a technique like a puppet with stiffened joints. Death King. Perhaps the old me wouldn't have recognized it. Back then, it was like that. No matter how skillfully a top expert displayed their martial arts, my ignorant eyes couldn't comprehend the depth of their martial skills. I couldn't read it. Even if I saw it, I couldn't comprehend. Even the duel between my master and Namgung-un, the 989th sparring, when I first saw it, didn't it seem just like a playful puppet show? The martial arts that Venomous Snake is displaying now are of a similar realm. My blindness. In the past, even upon seeing, I couldn't read, and it appeared to me as something I didn't even regard as anything. Smoke. Husk. Illusion. Dash. Now I know that what he is performing is a gesture with the sound of destruction of the yellow moon. I deflected Venomous Snake's sword with the sword of compassion. Silence. The sword wielded by Venomous Snake and the shadow I conjured collided, but there was no sound of their clash. Venomous Snake's sword couldn't audibly cut through my shadow. Venomous Snake swung his sword. Jiwangsa. Anwaliong. Doing like of and like of, needs to before, and s with to. With a biting force as venomous as a snake's fangs and as cunning as a dragon's body, one must steal the breath before the mouth opens to reveal fangs, and seize the distance before a strategy is employed to engage closely, using the opponent's power against them to strike at the throat. Master of Chenmu-mun. Venomous Snake. Hey! Go forth, new star. My name is Liao Fan. Liao Fan. Slowly I deflected his swinging sword and struck back. I remember you. Chi sword. I swung my sword. Chapter 276, Orthodox Faction 1. I was never meant for the Orthodox faction. On the 61st day of secluded training, Venomous Snake stared blankly, his mouth agape. This isn't right. A droplet of water fell from the cave ceiling. I remembered hearing Death King jokingly saying he fasted for several days as part of his training. I took those words seriously and embarked on a 60-day fasting regimen, but as the days passed, it wasn't just my stomach that felt emptier, my brain seemed to empty too. I felt more and more foolish. No, that can't be it. I can't even imagine Death King seriously undertaking fasting as a training method. This kind of training seems more like a waste of time, life, and brain cells than a way to beat him. A revelation. It was the moment of enlightenment. Damn it! That day, Venomous Snake ended his 60-day fasting training and descended to the noble race village, where he indulged in a feast. Pork feet. Fried dishes. Noodles. The table of the noble race was bountiful with dishes introduced by Venomous Snake. After about 5 days, completing meals worth several dozen days, Venomous Snake sat in the cave, despairing like a deater who couldn't overcome the yo-yo effect. How can I beat that guy? 60 days gone to waste. It's a depressing thought, but fortunately or unfortunately, Venomous Snake had a lot of time left. A lot. At least 60 years. 60 years. Just barely. How should I? Damn, how do I? The 60 days of fasting training left him with a habit of talking to himself. Venomous Snake groaned, looking at the cave wall, imagining a scene where words of absolute martial arts wisdom would be inscribed, but such fantasies didn't come true. Venomous Snake was not the protagonist. Perhaps it wasn't Death King who should have joined the demonic cult, but himself. Yes. It was all twisted from the start. Remembering Death King's bright smile, Venomous Snake smirked. No matter how you look at it, he suits the Orthodox faction. Not me. I can reluctantly accept striving for a better world, but saving the people of the tower? That's totally against my nature. I just enjoy the thrill. Venomous Snake picked up a stone and threw it at the cave wall. Thud. 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 Right. 4 days. 4 days of doing nothing, thinking nothing, changing nothing, a time of nothingness, passed outside at the pace of a clock's hour hand. Time couldn't be measured inside the cave, only the pockmarked scars on the wall, the marks of the stones thrown by Venomous Snake, indicated the passage of time. I was never meant for the Orthodox faction from the start. Thud. I chose to follow Namgungan, not because I was impressed by his martial arts, but just to spend some time learning. And I accompanied Death King to make the two old elders' journey more comfortable. That was fine in its own way. Thud. But it was all quite casual compared to him. Thud. Thud. I lived casually. Thud. Wow, did I really just live my life casually? I thought I was living earnestly. Did I just drift here without making any decisive moves? Shit. Did I casually reach the 6th rank of hunters and become the master of Chenmumun because the world was so easy? Am I a genius? What would have happened if I hadn't lived casually? The tower would have probably collapsed. Thud.
Yeah.
I could have brought down the tower. Thud. Being 6th in the ranking doesn't mean my achievements will be engraved anywhere. Will they be mentioned after I die? At best for 3 years, or 6 years if I try hard. After 6 years, my name or alias will all be illusions. Thud. Even as the master of Chenmumun, it's only significant within the tower. If placed in the center of a truly formidable martial world, it would be fortunate to be considered even a medium-sized faction. I gathered everyone not to recklessly swing swords on the streets, but to train themselves with that energy instead. Thud. I've lived too casually. Thud. Damn it. Go to hell. Everyone just die. Thud. Thud. On the 260th day of secluded training, the cave wall facing Venomous Snake, where he had been meditating, was devastated by the stones he had thrown. It was cratered and pockmarked as if bombed. He had thrown those stones merely to organize his thoughts, or rather to expel them, chiseling the rock in the process. Who am I? How did I end up here? What did I miss along the way? What have I managed to hold on to? And what were those things, really? 260 days. That was how much time Venomous Snake needed to consolidate his life. He used the hour hand as the warp and the minute hand as the weft, creating a sieve of time. Through this sieve, he shook out all the useless things, random thoughts, stresses, crumbs of thoughts and emotions, the fat and excess of life. When they didn't shake off easily, he threw stones to shatter them completely. After shaking them off, only a central question remained. To defeat Kim Gongja. Merely with a sword? No. It was about overcoming the infernal heaven's demonic art, the sword imbued with the cries of the common people. Kim Gongja might modestly call himself a minor sect leader and always talk about his master with bright eyes, perhaps even twinkling eyes, but Venomous Snake saw it differently. He knew something that perhaps even Kim Gongja himself didn't realize. Defeating Kim Gongja doesn't just mean overcoming the infernal heaven's demonic art. Long ago, the nameless first Death King roamed the world and created the infernal heaven's demonic art. He heard the endless death, screams, and groans of the world. In a world where people live like this, how could the swords they make and wield be anything special? Swords detached from the world, no matter how nobly praised, can only cut illusions, futilities, and fallacies. If a sword doesn't cut reality, it's just a decoration. To cut the world, the sword must first contain the world. And nowadays, the world consists only of screams, groans, and blood. Therefore, the sword of the infernal heavens must inevitably scream, groan, and spill blood. Kim Gongja. He spread that infernal heavens to the entire Dakibi race. He infected them. Terrifying. The infernal heavens formation that Kim Gongja devised wasn't merely an upgrade of the infernal heavens demonic art. Although he might have started with simple, naive motivations like coming up with a new idea or how great it would be to perform the infernal heavens with others, not just by himself. It's not that simple. Distributing the burden that was once on a single Death King to hundreds of thousands of commoners. Venomous Snake's eyes darkened. The Death King was noble, but alone. The followers revered the Death King not just as their leader but almost as a deity, a living legend. The Death King's words were law, and his actions history. Because only the Death King could fully manifest the infernal heaven's demonic art. But the formation is different. Anyone moderately familiar with the infernal heaven's demonic art can participate in the formation. There's no need to encapsulate the screams of all citizens. Just be faithful to one's role, blend into the ranks like an actor, and perform just that one person. Sigh. Kim Gongja is merely the conductor of the first orchestra there. Bei Hurayong spoke for the first time since the duel began. He was watching our fight from a distance. Of course, unfortunately, his response was impossible for Venomous Snake to hear. Dash, goddess of protection, has summoned the swords she harbors. She gives them a body of aura and fuels them to move, but the problem is these are parts of the constellation. They have a mind of their own. In other words, ego swords. They fight on their own. The sight of Kim Zombie calling 5 ego swords scattering aura and flying around. Very, very Kim Gongja-like. You crazy bastard. That's exactly what I mean. Even when you talk to yourself, sometimes your intentions get through. The world has become a better place. Both of them are rambling on their own, but it's utterly unrelated to the current battle. I just wield my sword. I can't be distracted by the surrounding voices and noise. Right now, I am solely focused on Venomous Snake, continuing my offensive. Damn it! Venomous Snake's fierce sword strike is automatically parried by the Compassion Sword. A strike aimed at the waist is blocked by the Prayer Sword. An attack trying to slice the wrist is deflected by the Sacrifice Sword. And as I rush towards the now exposed Venomous Snake. Damn you! As I striked. A sharp sound of cutting flesh, SSSHHH, resounded. It's shallow. It's not a fatal wound. Venomous Snake hastily steps back to avoid further injury. A few drops of blood stain the blade, but that's it. Just like the loud clash when the sword and blade met, the sound of hissing lingers. Again. I feel a strange sensation and frown. There was the sound of metal again. One might ask if the sound of metal is natural when a sword and blade clash, but not in this case. At least not now. Because the demon swords are made of shadows, not metal. Purely aura-made demon swords should not make a sound of metal when clashing with venomous snake's sword. Almost silent. At most, there should be a sound of something softly melting away or being bitten off. If the metallic sounds didn't come from my swords, then venomous snake. It must be the groan emanating from the opponent's sword. What kind of training have you undergone that makes your sword cry? I quietly observed venomous snake standing in front of me. Who?
Ha?
Who? Venomous snake was bleeding, gasping for breath heavily. With a smile on his lips. Chapter 277, Orthodox Faction, 2. I was never meant to be part of the righteous path. After leaving the cave, venomous snake roamed the world. Beautiful places, famous for their scenery, breathtaking views. He went to a place where waterfalls poured from the sky, sitting alone on a rock, getting drenched, trying to withstand the force of the waterfalls. He climbed to the highest peak, where he was closest to the sky, and gazed endlessly at the world below for days and nights. This isn't it. He felt no particular emotion. The self, nestled in his heart, didn't react at all. Venomous snake scratched the back of his head, recalling the advice of the martial arts leader Namgung-un. Blew it. This is all wrong. Righteous path involves incorporating nature into the sword, but no matter how beautiful and stunning things I see, I feel nothing. Rather, watching people commuting in the city feels closer to my heart. The majestic power of the waterfall. The vastness of the world spread beneath the mountaintop. The terrifying lightning and torrential rain. I'm not impressed. It's like, oh wow, so grand. Truly befitting of the leader of Chenmumun. I feel absolutely nothing like that. None of it charmed the self within him. I should have gone to the demonic sect. Kim Gongja is lucky. Why did he get matched with a teacher that fits him perfectly? Damn it. Day 407 since his emergence. The self lurking in his heart continued to speak only of jealousy, lamentation, and sighs. A black blob. Squirming and oozing sticky slime, venomous snake felt its outline clearly in his heart and moved on. Clang! The sound that echoed from the market streets initially went unnoticed by venomous snake. With his senses honed from years of training and a sharp aura, he certainly detected the metallic sound. However, while his body's senses reacted, the self entrenched within him remained indifferent. Clang! Chapter 278, Orthodox Faction, 3. Clang! I swing my sword. Huff, ha. I swing my sword again. Ouch. Damn it, it's so sly to use sword techniques like this. You, who've grown up so much, don't even listen to your senior's words. Ha. I continue swinging my sword. Infernal Heaven's Divine Art. First Form. Sword of Starvation. The Salvation Sword fiercely dances in the air. Even if I don't control them directly, my demonic swords have walked and watched lifetimes with me. Being extensions of my body and mind, they naturally execute the Infernal Heaven's Divine Art just like me. Huff. Ack. Now, the swords that ran away using sword techniques are casting demonic arts on their own. Hey, Death King. Kim Gongja. This is seriously unfair gameplay, you know. Venomous Snake, while generously cursing, skillfully steps forward and blocks the demonic swords, calmly parrying their elaborate and dazzling swordplay. That's it. Clang. I've starved for 60 days too. Ugh, who? Ugh. 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 Cough.
Ha! 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 Ah.
It was utterly meaningless suffering. Venomous snake kicks away the salvation sword. When his sword and my demonic sword clash, a sharp clang sound echoes unmistakably. Venomous snake, wiping the blood trickling on his belly with his robe, chuckles.
Ha!
Who?
Ah.
It's obvious he's at a disadvantage. Facing me, who has reached the realm of ghost swords, it's nearly impossible for Venomous Snake to stand a chance. Actually, if I were to attack with all 5 swords, each carrying a fragment of infernal heavens, he wouldn't last 3 seconds without falling. But still, that wouldn't mean I have defeated Venomous Snake. If he recovers, he would challenge me again with an unaffected face, saying, "Hey, let's have a rematch." It's not about defeating the body, but breaking the spirit. That's why it's difficult. Despite being at a disadvantage and continuing to fight, he doesn't stop smiling. At first, I suspected he might have fallen into disharmony. But no matter how closely I observed, it wasn't the case. His eyes were clear, not clouded by madness, and even his laughter contained happiness. A very small happiness, which seems like it could disappear if not listened to attentively, but he looks happy. After the initial probing phase, Venomous Snake started to swing his sword joyfully. How can he be happy? Was it the result of his long seclusion? Before entering seclusion, Venomous Snake seemed tormented while wielding his sword. It all seemed painfully unbearable. In fact, didn't he lose himself in disharmony during our fights? How can a person change so much? I firmly gripped my sword hilt. A question I asked myself, I already knew the answer to. Of course, people can change. And that excites me. I feel tense, but I'm so eager to understand how Venomous Snake, this human, has changed. I'm almost impatient to ask him, what happened to you? Carrying so many emotions, the burden of jealousy towards me, the obsession with the heretic questioner, the self-loathing for not being the protagonist, the guilt of not making the martial arts leader happy. With all these emotions, Venomous Snake, I swing my sword. How can you hold a sword and smile? One of my demonic swords, the sacrifice sword, vibrates deeply. Infernal Heaven's divine art. Second form. Sword of thirst. Blood bursts forth. Wow. Wow. The demonic sword wildly charges at Venomous Snake. A swift sword. Like an eagle diving from the sky, the demonic sword relentlessly stabs from above, left, and right, giving no rest to Venomous Snake. He desperately parries the stabs. Die. Hey, I'm going to die. Death King. I'm really going to die. See, huh?
Oh no.
Damn.
Ah.
Just now, it grazed my arm. Did you see it skim my arm? It really did. If it had gone any deeper, I might have gone from having one eye to one arm. Clang! The sound of metal rang out. Venomous Snake successfully repelled the sword of thirst. Although the wound on his arm was quite deep, causing blood to flow, and his robe was already in tatters from the numerous cuts. Coo-hoo-hoo. Damn, this is tough. Venomous Snake wiped the sweat dripping down his chin and smirked. It's seriously intense. Hey. Come at me with all the infernal heaven's divine arts at once. Won't I go down instantly then? Huh? Why don't you come? Ah, right. You can't talk. You're planning to defeat me without saying a word. Anyway, you're so serious. How can you live without the joy of conversation? Eventually, you will have to speak. Sigh. After taking a light breath, Venomous Snake turned his head. There, a group of hunters were watching our duel. Hey! Heretic Questioner.
Hmm.
The heretic questioner, holding a snail shell, tilted his head in curiosity. Yes, master of the Chenmu sect. It's been decades since I last saw your face, right? Ah, yes. I also chose to stay in the world and continue training. Ahaha. It's a coincidence that it's the same for me too. Aren't you happy to see me after such a long time? Yes, I'm happy. Does it really matter whether we reunite after a day or after 100 years? Yes. Both are equally delightful. Right. Sigh. Venomous Snake took another moment to steady his breath. That's just the way you are, isn't it? Ahaha. Venomous Snake gripped his sword. Then, with a smile on his face, he asked. Heretic Questioner. Yes. Are you happy right now? Yes. I am. The heretic questioner answered without a moment's hesitation. Beside him, the black dragon which looked disapproving with an expression as if to say, what nonsense are these two talking about? But both men paid no attention to this local broadcast banter. Weren't you quite troubled in the past? The heretic questioner pondered, touching his chin. If you're talking about physical pain and psychological trauma, yes, I think I was quite troubled in the past. And you're still troubled now, aren't you? Considering the intensity of my work and the scope of my duties, it would be normal to feel troubled. But are you still happy despite that? The heretic questioner beamed brightly. Yes. Although it's very difficult, this work has its enjoyable aspects. Master of the Chenmu sect. Recommending you an espresso is also quite fun. Silence lingered for a moment. Venomous Snake slowly opened his lips. Can you be happy despite being troubled? Of course. Yes, of course. You're a strange creature but still human after all. Right. It hurts when it hurts. It's troubling when it's troubling. And you smile when you smile. Venomous Snake turned his head back towards me. His breathing, which had been rough, had long since calmed down. Kim Gongja of the demonic sect. It's not just the strong you need to defeat in this world, nor just the weak you need to help. Venomous Snake addressed me not simply as the Death King or Kim Gongja, but specifically as Kim Gongja of the demonic sect, acknowledging that he was facing not just a hunter from the tower, not just my martial prowess, but the weight of the demonic sect and the expanse of the infernal heavens I bore. Your demonic sect took the cries of the common people as its doctrine. Those cries became revenge, and the revenge turned into bloodshed, staining the world red. Bloodthirsty avengers. The world is already soaked in blood, yet you still pretend to be the weak. I paused. This was a declaration of war from the 990th duel. It was similar to what the martial arts leader Namgung-un had said to my master, the leader of the demonic sect. Did you always cling to the heavenly demon's coat, crying endlessly? Begging for someone else to perform the rites of death on your behalf? While clinging to the sleeves, you considered yourselves weak commoners, sad people. Venomous Snake's eye swept over the audience. Not only the heretic questioner and the black dragon witch, but also Estelle, the Death King family, and followers who appeared to protect me in case of an emergency, were all hidden in the leaves of the forest, watching us. Venomous Snake nodded. Thirst. Despite his body being battered, Venomous Snake's eye shone brightly. Why do you continue to dwell on the wrongful spirits of the past when you all have feet to walk and hands to work? Huayan says that even a single tree must shed its flowers to bear fruit. What about you? Are you just flower vendors in a garden, exploiting your own pain? Is that so? Really, is that so? I need to. I couldn't keep silent. I had to break my vow of silence, my determination, my stubbornness to defeat my opponent without speaking. Because this crazy master of the Chenmu sect had elevated this place from a mere duel between the Death King and Venomous Snake to a confrontation between the demonic sect and the orthodox faction. Kim Gongja might be silent, but the infernal heavens cannot be.
Ha!
I let out a laugh. I wonder if the master of the Chenmu sect has the right to say such things. Finally, as my lips parted, Venomous Snake smirked. Why? You finally got a voice. You should check if it's still working properly. Did the martial arts leader Namgung acknowledge you as his successor? Have the masters of the 100 Paths chosen you as the representative of the orthodox faction? Recognition. It's good to have. But that guy Namgung, he's gotten old, right? He was heavily defeated by the heavenly demon, wasn't he? What authority or recognition does a defeated person have? As for the other masters, well, they are all resting under the snow. Let them rest in peace, as is proper. So, you claim to be righteous yourself? That's right. My heart is pounding. Do you have the skill to match? I just blocked your infernal heaven's divine art with a sword technique twice in a row. Isn't that enough? What more skill do I need? Damn, it's tough playing the role of a hero. I'm not the heavenly demon. Right. You're not the heavenly demon, and people around don't call you that, but I want to call you that. The followers of the demonic sect have sworn allegiance to you, spread doctrines to an absurd continent to the Dakibi race, and the whole race has become demonic followers. Damn, you're not the heavenly demon, but just a little leader? Isn't that too modest? I'm already objective and scientific by nature. I'll just live as I want. The second heavenly demon, Kim Gongja.
Ha! 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 Ha!
That's funny. Lightly. I smiled. Seeing that smile, Venomous Snake's face lost some of its cheerfulness. Well. I paid no mind and grasped my idol sword. I thought if you were filled with jealousy towards me like last time, I could easily defeat you. Or is the jealousy still there? Your emotions towards me don't seem to have changed much. I can feel it in the way you look at me. But then, I see. I gestured slightly. One of my demonic swords hovering around me as a guard reacted, wooing. Infernal Heaven's divine art. Third form. Sword of the drowned. Ambush. Venomous Snake immediately rolled on the ground. Thud. The prayer sword struck the spot where he had been standing. The prayer sword immediately raised its head, scattering dirt as it circled around Venomous Snake, striking whenever an opening appeared. Damn it! Venomous Snake quickly stepped around, avoiding the attacks. However, swish! A sword strike grazed his ankle. Blood spurted from his ankle. It wasn't a fatal injury, but it was certainly damaging. Really? Clang! Like a true demon, you use any means necessary. Venomous Snake gathered his aura throughout his body to counter the demonic sword. The sword flew back into the air and then returned to circle around me, continuing to guard me. Damn it! My foot, it hurts. Another clang of metal was heard. Not an unusual sound and something that could easily be mimicked with aura, but I intuitively felt there was some connection between Venomous Snake's joyful laughter and the metallic clangs. The reason he elevated our duel to a battle between the demonic sect and the orthodox faction. Is he confident he can win? No. Perhaps. He's confident he can break me. Me too. Not just as the young master, but also the infernal heavens. Just like I came here to break everything about Venomous Snake, the Chenmu sect lord, Liao Fan, he too has raised his sword intending to shatter everything about me. Good. My heart won't stop pounding. Good. What did the teacher say at such a time? Remembering the teacher's face, smile, breath, and the words uttered upon hearing the martial arts leader's declaration of war, I now understood it all. So, I said. Okay. I lifted the corners of my mouth. I accept the duel. I sheathed the idol sword, for a moment, brought my fists together, and assumed a formal bowing position. Venomous Snake twitched, but soon he too composed himself and mirrored my gesture. Though I didn't know why, I couldn't stop smiling. It was enjoyable. I hope the 991st duel does not disappoint the virtuous ones watching. The battle of good and evil. Even after a world in a snowy field had perished, there were those who carried on the demonic sect and those who wished to continue the orthodox faction. So here, even after the world had been buried in snow, the 991st battle took place. I decided to consider it happiness. Just. Master, I think strong people are impressive, I support the weak, I want to make people fallen into hell happy, and I want to hold the hands of those who still insist this place is not yet hell. Okay. I dislike those who make promises they can't keep. I smiled broadly. The stronger they are, the more I dislike them. I'll cut them down if they're trivial. Liao Fan. Venomous Snake swallowed. Then slowly, he smiled. Okay. Kim Gongja. In an instant. I scattered the 4 demonic swords and swung the one holy sword, taking a step forward. In the tranquil forest. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of metal echoed. Chapter 279, Orthodox Faction, 4. He was never meant for the Orthodox faction from the beginning. Why do you bend the iron there? No, don't use your aura to revert it. See this gentleman here? Venomous Snake swung his hammer. If you work using your aura now, that's a hobby, not work. It's just playing around. Are you here to play? Clang! Venomous Snake took a deep breath. The flames from the forge brightly lit his face. Droplets of sweat fell and sizzled on the hot iron. Did you come here to play? Clang! He was never cut out to be a blacksmith either. When striking iron, there was no sudden rhythm in his forearms, no dance in the swing of his hammer, no trembling through his body releasing pent-up frustration, none of that passion existed. Wow, damn it. Clang! This is tough. Really tough. What joy is there in work? I'm dying. Damn, why is it so hard? You think you're dying? Don't worry. To me, you're far from death. When you're really close to dying, your eyes start to droop and such. You, sir. I mean, can I just call you mister? Is that okay? You still look lively. It's tough. Work is always tough. Clang. Just humble yourself. So damn hard. But it's not the hardest job in the world. That's not comforting at all. What kind of comfort do you want then? Do you expect some magical spell that, upon hearing a few words, suddenly makes you feel comforted, makes hammering bearable, and turns your day refreshing and joyful? Comfort isn't really that comforting. It's given because it's even harder without it. It's tough. Clang.
Ah.
Clang. The sound of the hammering gradually turned the area red. The bright blue sky of the afternoon turned into a bloody evening sunset. Merchants unpacked their goods for the evening market, and now the street was filled not only with the sound of the hammer but also various noises. That's enough for today. Huff, phew. Ha, phew, ha. Let's go eat. The fairy race, impeccably dressed in a suit as if they had just bathed, was ready to stroll out. Despite being able to dress casually, the blood of the fairy race couldn't lie, they always planned to stride out in style. Venomous Snake, after wiping off some sweat, followed the fairy race. Wow! Mister! Look over there! In a corner of the old street, several dancers were performing. Although there weren't many spectators, everyone watched their dance moves with interest, finding it entertaining. They must have hired a fire painting play troupe for promotion at that store. That must cost a pretty penny. They're really going all out to attract customers over there.
Ah.
Is it something like hiring a singer to perform songs? Let's go and listen too. It's free. Loving free stuff was something both the Count and the fairy race had in common. With a faint smile, Venomous Snake, weary from the day's labor, walked towards the dance. Woo! Ah, woo! Ah!
Grr!
Growl. The actors on the makeshift stage in front of the store seemed to belong to a modest fire painting play troupe. There were only very young or very old actors. Instead of powerful dances, they performed simple ones in rhythm, and instead of singing about the harshness of war, they sang small songs of love. The somewhat slow music flowed with the aura of the actors into the sunset. Venomous Snake took a seat in the front row, crossing his arms. The sunset, as if it had drunk the blood of people who worked all day, was unusually red. The roofs, pillars, dirt roads, and cracks in the stone pavements of the street were all bathed in red. Woo, woo, woo.
Grr.
Toot, toot, brrrr, toot, toot. This too was quite nice. It was a strange day. Venomous Snake watched several splendid fire painting plays. He had seen many military dances performed by warriors belonging to the Fire River Council in his time. They were all intense yet magnificent, sorrowful yet beautiful. He had shed tears while watching them. But why? From his heart, his self, hissed and flickered its tongue. The snake in his heart that remained silent in front of those glamorous fire painting plays. Ah, they're dancing. Venomous Snake suddenly looked around. It was true. Other audience members, other guests who were watching the fire painting play, were rhythmically moving their shoulders, joyously dancing, or inviting their partners to dance. Red wine. Cheap. A fairy race shopkeeper came out of the store, selling red wine. The red wine was a traditional liquor from Guru, similar to beer. We have red wine cooled in the waterway. Ah, thank you. Thank you. The shopkeepers swam through the crowd like eels in a stream. On closer inspection, this store mainly sold simple food and red wine. The sounds of selling and buying red wine mixed with the actors' music, creating a lively atmosphere. I'll have 2 glasses too. Here. 2 glasses of red wine. The blacksmith jumped on the spot, reaching out his hand. Yes. 2 glasses of red wine coming up. Thank you. The blacksmith handed a glass of red wine to Venomous Snake with a laugh. This is the taste after hard work. You're lucky, mister. Enjoying a free fire painting play and all. Drink up. Go on. Your work today wasn't great, but I'm investing in your future. Nobody starts out being good at something, right? Venomous Snake, feeling oddly bewildered, drank the red wine. The red wine that gushed down his throat was refreshing. With a single gulp, a fresh wheat aroma burst forth from his throat. The cool, spicy scent of wheat in his mouth instantly shot to his head, making his nose twitch. KRH.
Ugh.
How is it? Killer, right? I come to this tavern often. The red wine here is just amazing. There are plenty of places in Guru brewing good red wine, but in terms of value for money, this place is the best. Wow, mister. You know how to enjoy your drink. Here. Another beer. Beer? What's this talk about beer? If you want beer, you have to go somewhere else. Anyway, shopkeeper. Another glass of red wine here. The world turned colorful. The sunset sky was like a painted palette, red as can be, and the chattering, drinking, and dancing guests below all seemed like angels. The sounds of music and dancing nearby seemed to flow directly from himself. What's this? His body felt itchy. I usually enjoy drinking, but, this is unusual. What's really going on? What's up? I don't know. Oh. This mister is drunk. I thought he could handle his liquor seeing how he ordered so confidently. Oh dear. Knocked out by just 2 glasses of red wine? Come on, mister. Wake up. You must be tired from working. If the work was tough, the alcohol hits you harder. I'm not knocked out, just really happy. Dong, dong, the music changed. His heart fluttered. Venomous snake stood up. Or perhaps that was the wrong expression. His heart stood up first. His body and limbs moved only to support his heart, which couldn't stand up on its own. The name Venomous Snake, his head, his mind, were the last to get up. Oh ha ha. Wow. Mister, what? Shall we dance? Yes. Venomous Snake smiled brightly. Had he ever laughed so freely since he started his training? The fairy race blacksmith chuckled and then, as if used to it, took Venomous Snake's offered hand. The height difference between the noble race and the fairy race was quite significant, so Venomous Snake had to bend at the waist. But the smile on his face, bent over, was joyous. Dancing with someone from the noble race is a first for me. The song's great. Woohoo! Well, I guess that's enough. Venomous Snake led his partner in a humming dance, occasionally lifting spirits and warmly praising the fire painting play troupe. Energized by his praise, the troupe danced more vigorously. With each step, their aura kept rhythm, the beat erupted, and the music played along the threads of dispersed aura energy. Phew! Dance well. Great song. Other guests joined in with encouragement. Regardless of whether they knew how to use aura or not, guests swayed and rolled their feet, clinking their glasses. Even a child clapped along. Boom! Clap! The rhythm of the fire painting play resonated from the shop front to the streets, spreading to the crossroads. Red wine for sale. Refreshing. Whoosh! The actor's footwork is great. The handiwork too. Smoke rose from chimneys all over the town. It was a signal to bring families home from the battlefield known as the workplace. Workers, seeing the smoke, left their jobs. In single file, in pairs, in groups. The streets were crowded with people returning home. On the edges of these paths, in dimly lit taverns, worn-out fire painting play troupes sold liquor and sang songs to less than fashionably dressed customers. They danced. Whoosh! Perhaps this place was a kind of outdoor club. No expensive tickets needed. Just a glass of confidently sold red wine from the shop. That's all it took to enjoy the performance of this old fire painting play troupe. No dress code required. Guests came in their workshop attire, some just adding a coat to look somewhat stylish, others arriving shirtless just as they were from work. All kinds of people gathered, humming with a glass in hand. They danced.
Ah.
Venomous Snake firmly held the fairy blacksmith's hand, as big as a rabbit's front paw, moving his face around, taking in the scenery from all sides. It's beautiful. What is? The song? The song? No, not the song. Just people drinking, laughing, singing along, everyone having fun and enjoying themselves. Wow. You're really drunk, mister. Now your words are becoming incomprehensible. It's beautiful. How can it be so beautiful? The world. Venomous Snake was crying. Not tears from his eyes, but tears shed by his self, the snake. It was blood. Tears from the heart flowed through the blood vessels, down to the tired calves from a day's work, to the knee joints, the back, the shoulder blades, the forearms, the palms, under the eyes, all over the body. It's tough because of work. It feels like dying, wanting to die. Everyone. While shedding tears in his heart and smiling broadly, Venomous Snake led his partner's hand here and there. The front of the shop had already become a small plaza. Drunk dancers surrounded the fire painting play troupe. The sounds of here, red wine. One more glass. And yes. Coming right up. Were not noise but seemed like a joyful part of the music. So, drink to live. To have fun. Drinking, dancing, getting excited, music playing. Then dancing again. Venomous Snake lifted the small-statured fairy race member. He held them in his arms and spun around. There were exclamations of wow. From around, but neither Venomous Snake nor the fairy in his arms heard them. Dance again. Work. Feel like dying. Then dance again. Have fun. Beautiful. Work. Feel like dying, then dance again, have fun, beautiful. Work. And work again. Want to die, but then have fun again. Clang.
Ah.
I think I'm starting to understand. Venomous Snake hummed happily. Humans desperately work. Desperate work makes you want to die. So, to not die, you find fun. You have to. Yes, you have to dance. Clang. Tired from work, we sing. Tired from work, we drink. Tired from work, we come out to eat together, and dance because it feels like we might die.
Ah.
Yes. There's no such thing as music for music's sake. Naturally. Only for those who have worked so hard they want to forget the day, for them, music is music. For those who have no such day to forget, it means nothing. What are you mumbling about? Mister? Does your personality change when you're drunk?
Ah.
Clang. I'm happy. Hammering was damn hard, but
Yeah.
tomorrow will be tough again. But right now, aren't you happy? Isn't life a bit fun right now? He was never meant for the orthodox faction from the beginning. Yes. He was never meant to be a blacksmith of the fairy race from the beginning. Of course, it's fun. That's why I love the time when I'm not working the most. There were always many who didn't quite fit into something. In every town, in every city, tired workers returning home filled the streets of Guru. The dimly lit shops and cool red wine, the shopkeepers bustling about, those whose day's fatigue was soaked into their collars, at the corners of streets and crossroads. Their momentary luxury. A glass of liquor. Delicious snacks. Nonsense talks with friends. To somehow scrape away and lighten today's deathly fatigue, this damp, unshakable feeling, all to be ready to work again tomorrow. They danced. Everyone's alive. Life is tough to death, but when you get past that moment, you can breathe for a while. Venomous snake wanted to protect that breath. Righteousness is calling the happiness of ordinary people beautiful. Righteousness is telling those who have somehow finished a day's hard work to rest now. Righteousness is loving liquor, dance, and song, but only the liquor, dance, and song of those who have worked and finished their day. Foreman. Yes. Live long. Be careful of accidents. Venomous snake patted the blacksmith's shoulder. He staggered away from the square where music and dance flowed. Survive till the end. You too. Me too. All of us. Once he left the square, the shadow of the noble race disappeared among the crowd. Slowly. It became invisible. The fairy race blacksmith stood alone, watching the back of someone disappearing into the sunset. Right. Run. Venomous snake was running. Maybe because I went to the fire painting play with the mindset of dressing up and listening to music politely, I never felt moved by any performance. It makes sense. He ran. Releasing the aura sealed all day, his body surged with blood. His vision brightened. Suddenly, with a leap, Venomous Snake was already stepping on the rooftops of the village. People in the streets pointed at him, shouting, but he moved too fast for their fingers to follow, disappearing quickly over the rooftops. Venomous Snake gasped for breath. Originally, it's tough, working like you're about to die. Only when it feels like dying, can you finally hear the music and dance? To forget. To endure. Not because we're happy to live, but to become happy in order to survive. To survive. Clang. To survive. From a certain moment. Every step Venomous Snake took resonated with aura, every swing in the air exploded with aura, and the sound of metal clanged. Clang. Day 410. Venomous Snake became a lodger at a snail race farm, living and working with the farmer's family for 2 years, tilling the land. The plow dug into the hard ground. Clang. Day 1503. Venomous Snake joined a fairy race bank, working in finance. Always hiding his origins, his supervisor, unaware that he was a noble race deity, often scolded him from behind. Clang. Day 2874. Venomous Snake entered a noble race's mine and swung his pickaxe. The conditions in the mining industry had improved considerably compared to when the snail race used slaves. However, despite the improvements, the work at the mine face was undeniably tough. Venomous Snake, gasping for air, soaked in sweat, swung his pickaxe with difficulty. Clang. Day 7021. Clang. Day 14059. Clang. Day 19856. Clang. Day 22400. He was never meant for the orthodox faction from the beginning. He was never meant to be the solitary but skilled swordsman type. Is this enough? He was never meant to be a protagonist. Huff. Standing atop a mountain, Venomous Snake took a deep breath. The world he inhaled became blood and circulated through his muscles, shoulders, back, waist, thighs, calves, and the soles of his feet. Then, he slowly exhaled.
Hoo!
In the distance, atop the mountain, a giant turtle monster, rising from the deep sea and heading this way, appeared. It seemed formidable enough to destroy the world, but Venomous Snake paid it no mind, not even sparing it a glance. Because his focus was on humanity. Come on, Kim Gongja. He. after a long time, shedding the guise of the noble race and inhabiting his own body, spoke with his own voice, more than anything, from the heart of his self, and thrust a righteous fist into the void. Here lies the orthodox faction. Clang! A hissing sound echoed. Fighting is work. Clang! And work is naturally tough and arduous. Clang! Fighting you, in particular, is going to be so hard it feels like death, even among tough jobs. Clang! After this job is over. Clang! Let's go somewhere with good music, and just damn drink our hearts out. Venomous Snake laughed. In a world where the 5 great families were buried in snow, the 9 martial arts sects vanished in snowstorms, and even the Martial Alliance leader's sword was broken. Now the infernal heavens thrived beyond the boundaries of the world, and Bariah sang in this place. Here, the last of the White Path's righteous warriors, left by the world of snow, stood. The master of the Chun Mumun master was laughing. Chapter 280, The Last Vote, 1. Inevitably, the infernal heavens' demonic art is a demonic art. Clang! The leader of the martial world, Namgungan, mocked us as if we were merely florists. My master did not refute this. Now, Venomous Snake, claiming to be the descendant of the orthodox path, uttered the same mockery, but I too did not argue back. I simply smiled in response. Clang! We all know it. Those who recklessly use the sword without understanding are mere beginners who have just stepped into the world. Those who wield the sword to understand are intermediates. And those who hold the sword despite and because of their understanding are masters. We all know it. Clang! We know that there are people who, despite the hardships of life, find small joys, enduring the pain of yesterday and the fatigue of today, surviving in their everyday lives. Clang! They sometimes say they want to die, but their murderous intent has not yet led to actual killing. They sometimes scream about their hardships, but these cries have not yet turned into screams of agony. Even if their happiness does not fully extend to their entire lives, ending merely in an hour, half a day, a full day's joy. We know that there are countless people who endure their daily lives like this. Clang! The infernal heavens cannot soothe those small joys. For those small and beautiful flowers, the people of the mundane world whom I want to love, comfort, and kiss, the heavens of infernal heavens are too busy to embrace them. Still in this world. Clang! There are too many who scream in agony. Clang! Too many eyes that look up to the heavens with hatred while bleeding. Clang! Those who starve to death, those who die of dehydration, those who drown in the deep sea and cannot escape, those who have no place to flee and freeze to death in the snowstorm, those who die convulsing on the ground without a chance to utter their last words due to poison, those whose limbs are eaten away by illness with no way to save themselves, those who are beaten to death, those who burn to death, those who take their own lives. Clang! There are so many. Clang! Yes, too many. Still, there are far too many. Clang! Look, Chen Mumun leader. If you still have one eye left, look. Clang! Do you really think these countless screams can be appeased by the happiness you bring? Infernal heaven's demonic art. Fourth form. Sword of freezing. Venomous Snake barely managed to block the sword I swung. But blocking it wasn't the end. I had not only sword of idolatry, but also sword of compassion, sword of prayer, sword of sacrifice, sword of salvation, casting shadows and flying from every direction. Whoosh! Swish! Every time Venomous Snake showed an opening, the demonic swords rushed in, turning their blade points towards him. Damn, crap. Clang! Venomous Snake, with almost miraculous movements, fended off the sword of compassion, targeting his neck. However, it wasn't perfect. The blade grazed his neck, and whoosh! A stream of blood spurted out. Huff. Huff, huya, huff, huff, hoo, hoo. Venomous Snake staggered. But even while staggering, he firmly grasped the swords in both hands. He is already in tatters. Despite constantly chattering away as if nothing is wrong, Venomous Snake was covered in wounds, seemingly without a single unharmed part on his body. Without his superhuman will, he would have already collapsed twice over.
Ha!
That's why I laughed. Chenmumun leader. With that, you cannot defeat me. Do you understand? Even if you continue for 100, 1,000 years, you will never be able to defeat infernal heavens. Yes, probably so. You dare recite the phrases of the righteous and demonic Great War, calling me a heavenly demon with such outrage. It's impudent to request a duel, claiming the fight that already ended in infernal heaven's victory isn't over yet. You committed such outrage and rudeness, and yet is this all you can do? I secretly hope to see a martial art that could captivate me, if not a technique that could tear the heavens. I'm doing it. Venomous Snake gasped for breath. His wounds and bleeding had consumed half of his breaths, making the words he uttered sound very faint. What? I'm already doing it. What are you talking about? 1. Squeeze. Gripping the sword hilt tightly with both hands, Venomous Snake raised his torso. As he lifted his head, which had been bowed in a hunched posture, the sight of his one eye became visible. I'm, right now, working on it. The second heavenly demon, you bastard. Venomous Snake's eyes were fiercely ablaze. Work. A job is also karma. It's fate. A burden that weighs down life, wondering how I ended up here, but anyhow, it's the karma that clings to me. There are so many professions in this world, and each job has its own damnable karma. Kim Gongja. Yes. What do you think my job is? I frowned slightly. Your job is the leader of Chenmumun. Right. But that's more like a side job. You're nominally the deputy guild leader of the 5th guild, but your real job is a heavenly demon, right? Or maybe the head of that Death King family or something. Huh? I've found a new job recently. Do you know what it is? Stopping you. For a moment, I couldn't understand his words. What? Enduring you. Withstanding the existence known as a heavenly demon. That's the profession I've chosen. Venomous Snake took a stance with his sword hilt raised. His ankles, thighs, waist, back, and neck, there was no place without a wound. However, the way Venomous Snake stood firm on his 2 legs and the way he held the sword in his hands were orderly. How about it? Interesting, right? What? Just as you say, Kim Gongja. There are too many resentments in the world. Too many silent screams buried. As long as those sounds resonate, the sky will be a fated infernal heavens, and you swinging your sword under infernal heavens will continue to be a heavenly demon. But, you see. However. Thud. Grains of dirt crumbled. Stepping on the ground, Venomous Snake charged towards me. There are also many who endure hardship and keep living. Clang! I controlled Sword of Sacrifice to block Venomous Snake's breakthrough. Even though Sacrifice Sword wasn't made of metal but of a shadowy demonic sword, when the 2 blades crossed, the sound of metal was sharply ringing. Venomous Snake lunged. People starve to death. Yes. I know. There are so many who die unjustly. It's sad. There are times when tears come. But you see, Kim Gongja. Regardless of whatever damned deaths happened last night, we have to shoulder our duties and go out today. Do you know that? I summoned another demonic sword. Infernal Heaven's demonic art. 5th form. Sword of Vengeance. The sword of player quickly found an opening in venomous snake. Swish. Blood spurted from the back of his right hand. Venomous snake groaned, cursing. But his hand holding the sword hilt did not even flinch. I can't just keep crying. Clang! With his unflinching hand, venomous snake swung his sword. The weight of a day is overwhelming. So overwhelming that sometimes it's suffocating. Before starting work, my heart races wondering if I can endure the day, and even after finishing work, my heart is crushed thinking about tomorrow's coming tasks. Do you know that? My heart is choked, beaten, and crushed every day, so tight that even setting aside a place in my heart to cry for you guys is hard. Clang! I'm sorry. Clang! I'm sorry for being born in this world, for not being able to live without shouldering my duty and earning my daily bread. Damn you, infernal heaven's bastard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Clang! So, stop making us apologize. Clang! How long do we have to keep apologizing? Until the day comes when no one starves to death, until the cries of agony are no more? Should we keep apologizing until then? Should I throw away the karma that currently burdens me, plunge into your infernal heavens, follow its doctrines, and fight until the day not a single commoner dies of hunger? It's hard. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the courage. Right now, the only thing responsible for my daily bread is this hammer in my hand. I've just gotten used to hammering to make ends meet. The only theft I've learned is this much, and I'm barely surviving on it. I can't throw that away and rush to where your screams of infernal heavens are heard. Every day is filthy. Heavenly demon. It's terribly hard. Venomous snake swung his sword. Clang! I once helped with farm work at a farmer's house. Autumn came and each grain of wheat was like gold, making the wheat fields look like waves of gold from afar. But then I heard rumors of a typhoon coming. Clang! No matter how much we prepared and dealt with it, it was inevitable. We gave up on the wheat swept away by the typhoon and just threw a few salvaged wheat straws into the barn. Those few straws rolling in the barn were all the family had to survive the year. But isn't it fortunate? At least we saved that. The farmer awkwardly smiled, saying it was fortunate to have saved that. Then we heard news from the neighboring village. An elderly couple who couldn't evacuate in time were swept away by the typhoon, their own roof collapsed on them, and they died. Clang! It's sad. Clang! How can it not be sad when people die unjustly? If I can help, I will. There are times when tears come. But... Clang! We have to work again. Clang! Going to the forge, to the fields, to the bank, to the mines, connecting yesterday to today just like the day before, fearing when this tomorrow will end, we dedicate ourselves to this karma. Finally. A gap opened up. Dodging the sword I swung, venomous snake took a step back. I did not pursue. Naturally, a small clearing formed between venomous snake and me. Many people were watching our duel. Black Dragon Witch, Sword Saint, Heretic Questioner, Count, Crusader, Vampires, Pure Race, Snail Race, Elf Race, Mermaid Race who had gathered following their parents, and others. The races that were enjoying the festival in the forest had quietly turned their attention to the duel of the two warriors. Estelle and Aberka. The 1,000 followers of my religion, too. Their silence was thicker than the quiet of the forest. Kim Gongja. Venomous snake's breathing was terribly disordered. He had to mix several gasps of breath to pronounce my name correctly. But he finally articulated my name correctly. Heavenly demon. Your existence threatens us. I gripped the hilt of the holy sword tightly. Is that so? Yes. We don't even have enough tears to shed for ourselves. It's tough. There are so many people who have never cried for themselves. They don't die even if they want to, don't cry even if they want to. Just because they have to survive. Because they need to stay alive. But, because of you, we have to shed tears even for complete strangers we don't know. It might be good at first. It's a tragedy that could happen to any of us, because they are people just like us. But we can't cry forever. It's hard to keep crying. All those people, have to work. We drink to catch a breath, set up a board for Baduk, dance at festivals. We go out for walks in the streets, watch the seasons turn red, and smile foolishly. That's the happiness barely allowed to us, the happiness we scrape together just to avoid dying. How precious that happiness is. Venomous snake pointed his sword at me. Don't ruin that happiness. When you come, the world becomes chaotic. Heavenly demon. I remained silent. Yes. And I understood. Falling into disharmony is what infernal heavens does. When I see people ignoring the death of others in this place, the blood of infernal heavens boils. When I see people just passing by the death of others here, the fangs of infernal heavens sharpen. When I see people neglect the dead, ignore the neglect, and later on make excuses that they truly didn't know, and finally express sympathy as if they didn't know such a thing had happened, when I see such people, the eyes of infernal heavens turn red. Even knowing they're all ordinary humans. I want to kill them all. Killing intent. There was a time when my master fell into disharmony. Then, master laughed brightly and slaughtered all the humans in sight. Oh. Assassins come to kill me? Good. Come at me. Let's see your swords. Because infernal heaven's demonic art is demonic to the core. It turns those who ignore screams into bystanders, those who don't help the dying into neglectors, and insists that no human is unrelated to the screams and deaths in this world, posing the danger of slaughtering and annihilating all humans. That possibility is always there. Yet. I opened my lips. Still, I cannot stop. No, I will not stop. If there are screams forgotten by everyone, I will collect them. And I will tell those who did not hear those screams. To feel guilty? To see the world. I said. This is the world. For shadows encircled me as if guarding me. Salvation, sacrifice, prayer, compassion, surrounded me. So, please come with me to the tower. Estelle, the family advisor, stood behind me. Aburka, the head of the warriors, crossed his arms, and Kim Yul, the family's young, leaned against a tree. 1,000 of my followers also hid in the forest shadows, forming a formation. Slowly. Venomous snake lifted the corners of his mouth. I will be your watcher. Heavenly demon. And he said. When your infernal heavens is too vast to comfort the small petals, I will block your path and raise my hand to point out that there's a bloom here. When you draw your sword to scream in this world, I will judge and advise whether the people living there can still bear the screams, whether they have the capacity left to endure them. Whether in their lives bent and burdened by life, your screams will become an additional burden, whether you should draw the sword of infernal heavens now, and what reasons there are for not doing so. I will decide and advise. Venomous snake. I will always be by your side, working. As a representative of ordinary people. I may not be the protagonist or even a main character following the protagonist, but if the day comes when you fall into disharmony and dye the world red, leader of Chenmu. I will be right beside you to strike your neck. Liao Fan. Only then will I have defeated you. Understand? There's no need to rush. Until you lose, until you are devoured by infernal heavens. It's enough to just keep watching by your side. Liao Fan smiled. Kim Gongja. I will take you as my karma. The last righteous blade left by the snowy plains pointed his sword. Test me all you want, see if I'm worthy of that. Chapter 281, The Last Vote, 2. Blossoms cascade like gentle rain. These petals, like a warm snow, softly lain. Very well. I speak, raising my sword. Let's test it. I charge forward. Swinging. The sword I swing collides with the blade held by venomous snake. Clang. The sound of metal rings out. Clang. The sound of metal rings out again. Clang. Venomous snake's shoulders flinch, then with a pop, his condensed muscles unfurl all at once, splitting the sword path. It's as if several sword paths are attacking simultaneously, an illusion. No, is it not a sword path but rather a sword discussion? He raises his aura, creating multiple afterimages of his blade, asking me which one I will respond to. Depending on which one I choose, the nature of that sword path will become something entirely different. And none of those changes will be in my favor. Unparalleled in the world. Perhaps this is the skill venomous snake acquired when he first entered the tower. The ability to read the projected paths of attacks, something I glimpsed in my master's world. Then, I raise my sword. There's no need to choose. It wasn't just one sword. The sword strike venomous snake brings down from the upper left is parried by the sword of compassion. 1. The sword strike burrowing towards my waist is blocked by the sword of prayer. 2. The strike aiming for my wrist is stopped by the sword of sacrifice. 3. The attack aimed at my neck is deflected by the sword of salvation. Thus, I block all of venomous snake's attacks, binding his hands, and then I leap towards his chest.
Ha!
I swing the sword of idolatry in my hand. Venomous snake steps back. He's trying to create distance and regroup. But I'm not about to give him that chance. I charge. I bend. Ha! And in that moment, I see a smile flicker across venomous snake's lips. Hria! Clang! The sound of metal rings out. My swing with the sword of idolatry is blocked by something. It's not venomous snake's sword. His wrist, wrapped in aura-engulfed gauntlets, blocks it. Not only does he block it, but he also rotates his hand, grabbing the blade. He pulls. Liao Fan. Venomous snake's one-eyed gaze, suddenly, closes in. Aren't you a swordsman? There are two things I want to tell you. Our voices overlap, and in the next moment, they are drowned out by a loud explosion. Boom. The sonic boom created as venomous snake's other fist grazes past my ear swallows all other sounds. This too is one of the great sword techniques. So venomous snake's words are conveyed only through the movement of his lips. The main reason I use a sword is simply because it suits me best and looks cool. The moment his fist grazes past, venomous snake is already launching into his next attack. Pulling the sword he has grabbed, he aims to strike my abdomen with his bent knee. If I let go of the sword and back off, he'll swing it directly, aiming to strike my shoulder in a crosscut. Should I then brace my legs and stand firm? No, then he'll straighten his bent knee and strike my solar plexus. I see, that's true. I see it. I feel it. When controlling the 7 heroes of the Oni, you handled many weapons simultaneously. Yes. Venomous snake's intent. His prediction of my response. The strategy based on that prediction. All of it supported by one pure objective. From the scythe to the fist, there is no weapon I cannot wield. We are now conversing. That's right. Floating in the flow of time created by the aura, I surreptitiously count the number of cards Venomous Snake can play. I count for a while, then give up. There are many. Dozens. Considering the traps lying in wait to be triggered, easily hundreds. In the blink of an eye, I feel Venomous Snake's intent and killing aura from my left, right, behind me, all around, and even beyond. Really now. This is truly like a human wave attack. The 7 Oni heroes, the 12 winged generals, the 72 demon kings, the 108 arhats, whatever it may be, this is different in nature from the unified will controlling numerous bodies that I had encountered before. Here, numerous wills are displayed through a single body. Therefore, the one before me now is Liao Fan, yet not just Liao Fan. There really are many. A blacksmith's hammer-like fist targets me. The blade of a farmer's sickle, the snips of a gardener's scissors, the net of a fisherman, countless attacks unfold towards me. Yes, go ahead, give it your all. I too will use all my strength to defeat you. No, to defeat all of you. Let's go, Shiny. As I leap into the vortex of attacks, I swing my fist as well. Whether it was the right answer or not, strength drains from Venomous Snake's sword-wielding hand. Resonate with my heart. The moment my fist cuts through the air, I pray. The salvation of the torn goddess. Among the 4 swords floating in the air, the sword of salvation vibrates intensely. Activating skill. This is a secret technique once possessed by Constellation Killer. Forgetting memories, drawing strength equivalent to the weight of the forgotten memories. The more the past is discarded, the more the current me dies. I promised Raviel not to recklessly throw away my life, so I try not to use the salvation of the torn goddess, unless it's a moment when I have to give it my all, like now. Sword of salvation. I swing the sword. Infernal heaven's demonic art. First form. Sword of starvation. The sword of salvation fiercely leaps in the air. Coo. The blacksmith-like fist targeting my right side is flung far away. 1, 2, 3, 4 lives join the fray, but none can withstand the sword of salvation. The consumption of my aura is also intense. But I discard the memories of the 4 attacks I just repelled. For a moment, my vision clears. My heart beats. The depleted aura is replenished. My footsteps lighten, and my movements quicken. Glancing to my right, despite being surrounded on all sides, that area alone is conspicuously empty. Looking more closely, I see 4 lives groaning and rolling on the ground. Although I can't remember how it happened, the reason and meaning behind it are clear. Okay. My right side is open. Sword of sacrifice. Then the next action to take is clear. Infernal heaven's demonic art. Second form. Sword of thirst. From my left, the sword of sacrifice strikes. Groans and screams fill the air as attacks approaching from the left are blocked. I discard the memories of the attacks I just blocked. My left side is open. Sword of prayer. Look. Chen Mumun Master. I am giving it my all right now. Infernal heaven's demonic art. Third form. Sword of the drowned. You are not a nobody to me. How could I use the sword of infernal heavens against someone who is nothing to me? How could I just forget memories that are fleeting yet significant? How could I scrape my soul, gather every bit of flesh shredded from wounds, and connect them into a stroke of the sword? Sword of compassion. Do you intend to stop me? Do you intend to make me your karma? Infernal heaven's demonic art. Fourth form. Sword of freezing. I am indeed dealing with you with all my strength. Using all my strength means that my life is laid upon my sword. I ponder what excuse I'll give to Raviel. I can't just say, I didn't die, so I didn't break the promise, right? How could I show such shamelessness to Raviel, insisting on the literal meaning of a single word? Right? Infernal heaven's demonic art. Fifth form. Venomous snake strike sword. I am concerned about Bei Hurayong's gaze. This man. Ever since I developed the infernal heavens formation, he has become quite serious. The time he spends watching me has increased compared to the time he spends talking to me. It seems he's started to see me as a more equal warrior, and while I'm pleased, it still continues to bother me. I wonder how Bei Hurayong is evaluating the swordsmanship I'm displaying right now. Right? Infernal heaven's demonic art. Sixth form. Sword of illness. I think of my master. I recall the decisive battle he fought with the martial world leader. At that time, my master fought to the extent of shattering his internal energy, and wherever she stepped, cherry blossoms bloomed and flowed. The world devoured the internal energy and blood shed by my master, blooming a few petals in return. Infernal heaven's demonic art. Seventh form. Sword of blunt impact. I need to reach that level to persuade my opponent. Only at that level will I be able to cut you down. I wonder if I can even reach that level, even by a fingertip or a nail. Infernal heaven's demonic art. Eighth form. Sword of incineration. I am worried. You have made me worry about all my love, friendship, and admiration. You can't be a nobody to me. Right? The left side is empty. There's nothing. The right side is empty too. Nothing to obstruct. The rear is also completely empty. No chance of being caught from behind. Thus, what remains is only the front. My path forward. Left, right, rear, all sides clear, the path toward venomous snake's true form is wide open. Here I go. I step forward. Piercing through the entirety of your lived life. One step. I recall the sword sent out to block the incoming lives. Salvation, sacrifice, prayer, compassion, the four swords quickly gather around me, encircling me closely. I will cut your heart. 3 steps. The four swords scatter like iron filings. The aura used to maintain the ego swords is recollected. For a moment, my vision brightens, and blood boils throughout my body. But towards me, an accountant's pen, a vegetable seller's basket, a drunkard's bottle, countless ordinary things from countless people fly at me. Good. My steps crush the ground with the force to confront all of it. Chen Mumun Master. My voice erupts. As the long night subsides and the shadows of the forest turn pale, the leaves tremble coolly in the dawnlight, my roar resonates through the jungle. Venomous snake. Suddenly, something seems to flow where I stepped. Liao Fan. 3 steps. My feeling that something is flowing is not an illusion. With each step, 1, 2, petals flutter from the ground I tread. It's merely a brief flutter at the bottom of my vision, not like the master and the leader whose steps bloomed flower stems, not like the flowers spreading fragrance where their swords passed, not like the two who turned the radius of their swordplay into a garden. But just for a moment, white petals flutter between venomous snake and me. Infernal heaven's demonic art. 9th form. Sword of suicide. 4 steps. My sword cuts a single petal. The sound of drawing breath. A gasping sound from the tip of my sword. The petal cut by the blade silently splits into two. As white splits to each side, slowly the view clears. On one side, Liao Fan with his dark eye patch appears, and on the other, Liao Fan's left eye is revealed. The blade has stopped beside Liao Fan's neck. No. It had to stop. My heart. Right at my solar plexus, Liao Fan's fist was placed. Either I was slightly late in stopping, or where my blade halted, it lightly cut him, and tiny droplets of blood slide down the blade, turning red. Either he was slightly late in stopping, or where Liao Fan's fist halted, it slightly bruised me, and blood squeezed from my lips, trickling down my chin, turning red. I can't swing my sword any further. The moment I do, my heart will burst out. He can't thrust his fist any further. The moment he does, his neck will be severed. We both knew this fact, and so we naturally stopped. How can this be? Unbelievable. The forest was in turmoil. Again, it's not just the hunters playing the role of spectators in this forest. The races that followed the hunters were bustling, and especially, the entire retinue of our Death King family was attentively observing the duel, hidden in the shadows of the forest. A sea of people. With such a scale, it wasn't that there were people in the forest, rather, the forest seemed to be made of people. Under the gaze of everyone, I casually said first. I even defeated the Sword Saint. A corner of the forest twitched. Probably the Sword Saint himself. Venomous Snake casually replied. That old guy? I beat him too. A long time ago. Back then. The Sword Saint twitched again. I laughed. I heard you lost an eye in the process. That doesn't mean I lost. What? So the Sword Saint is just a measuring stick for combat strength? Totally. He's an old man, after all. Maybe there's some kind of rejuvenating chance, you know? Like suddenly becoming a silver-haired pretty young man, right? Well. It's cliché but plausible. No, I was thinking more like becoming younger, like a young man or a middle-aged man. A pretty young boy, what are you talking about? I'm kind of feeling upset here. I doubt you feel as bad as I do. That last shout came from the Sword Saint. I laughed. Liao Fan laughed too. Our blood flowed with that laughter. The dripping blood hit the ground with a plop. And then, both of us collapsed at the same time.